All right, guys, what's going on? Brian here. Today's video is going to be how and why to conduct interviews at your party or event featuring my girlfriend, Sarah. All right, let's get into the video. So, equipment that you're going to need: iPhone to film, DJI or Lavalier mic for audio, and then, just like a third person to film the video. So, a couple of options here in terms of mics. You can go cheap and just get these Lavalier microphones. They're pretty good. The quality isn't quite as good as the DJIs. Now, the DJIs are kind of expensive, but that's what I have. That's what I'd recommend. They come in like a really professional case and stuff. These ones, they kind of suck. You can just break them. It's like 20 bucks, but either way, you need a mic. All right. So, why should you do this and why do you film interviews at your party? So, first thing is that people are drawn to those who create content, right? The reason is because everybody knows that they have the opportunity to make content, but nobody actually does it. So they're kind of like drawn to people that are, taking that sort of action. Whenever you're doing interviews at the events, it's going to get a lot of attention. Like people are going to be able to, kind of look over and see what's going on. They're going to wonder what's going on. They're going to wonder who you are. They're going to wonder why you're doing that. It just gives you some authority. It just gives you, gets you attention, but it also isn't you trying to do that, right? It's kind of more of like just passive. So it's good. And then the second thing is it allows you to ask people to interview for your channel. Okay, so asking people to interview for your channel is probably like the most clutch way to approach the best people at your event while maintaining your value, power, and status. And so what I mean is that while you're doing like an interview session, you can go up to like the most attractive women at your events or the most high status guys at your events, even if you don't know them, and just say, hey, want to come film for my channel and do a quick interview, right? You can interrupt somebody's conversation and, walk up and open with that. And it doesn't give away any of your power. It doesn't give away, it's not the same as like a regular cold approach or just like a regular opener where it's like kind of this equal stature thing. Like you're coming in with like value, but then it's also kind of more or less like it's just value, right? So it's just like a different type of opener. Then the second thing is that obviously like creating these does give you legitimately the opportunity to go viral and then reach like 10,000 to 100,000 people with these interviews. You guys can see this screenshot right here. This was an interview that I did on a boat party that I hosted, and it got 142,000 views. And that was just like all one take, off the cuff. Uh, Obviously, having like a social channel or some other events channel that has reels on it that have this amount of views on it is good for your reputation, right? People in your city start to see it, so the views and the reach is pretty obvious. Like in and of itself, that's going to help you a lot with networking and with dating. And then the last thing is that the act of interviewing itself makes these individuals attracted to you. And the reason is because, like, when you bring somebody over and you start interviewing them, the emotions are really high, right? Like, you're kind of nervous because the camera is rolling and you don't know what's going to happen. And so, when there's an emotional peak like that, combined with the fact that you're actually like leading this person through the interview and the interaction, it's that combination between really high high emotions and then that leadership personality that, like, no matter who it is, like, they're going to subconsciously be attracted to you. So yeah, like those four things right there are the reasons that you would do it. And it's also just pretty fun. So I'm going to walk you guys through like actually how to do it step by step. So step number one is obviously like you have to walk up to someone and ask them to film an interview with you or film it for you. Like you have to have somebody to film it for you. So the first thing you do is ask somebody around you or a friend, like, hey, like, can you film this interview we're about to do? And they're just going to say yes. Like nobody is really like, no, bro, like somebody will just do it. Just give them your iPhone. That's easy. The second thing is you need to decide who you want to interview and just walk up to them and say, hey, do you want to be interviewed for my channel? They'll probably just say yes. They might ask what the channel is about, and you can just tell them it's for my business or whatever. Like you can be pretty vague, And then if they ask you what the interview is about, then you just tell them that it's kind of like a surprise. Like you don't want to tell them the questions that you're going to ask because you want to get like genuine and authentic answers. And if you were to like tell them what the questions are before the interview, then they would kind of like have time to premeditate these answers. And it's just not as like good that way. So the intrigue and the mystery piece, like that's kind of part of the fun too. So then, once they agree, which is like basically a 100% hit rate on this thing, like everybody agrees to do it. Uh, you basically walk them over to the appropriate location to film. So it might be like the red carpet. It might be just like a different area that has a good background. And then obviously you just like, film the interview. So some pro tips here. Number one is start the interview with one or two, strong, fast, short hook questions before asking the real question. And so what I mean by that is, when the person that's filming says rolling, the first two things that you'll probably ask are like, who are we here with? Or like, what's your name? And then like, what's your ethnicity? Like, what's your age? So it's like two quick like hook questions because that's going to be what kind of hooks the audience, right? Is it's not like diving right into the actual interview question, but it's just a quick hook like, what's your name? And then it's, some girl saying Lisa or whatever, some dude saying whatever. And then you ask him like, like, do you own a business? And he says yes. So it's like it gives a little context. And then once you get into the actual question for the interview, you want to ask a negatively spiked, controversial, or polarizing question related to your city or to your niche. So, like, negativity and like bad news spreads faster than good news. So, you always kind of want your questions to have like a negative twist. And so, examples of that would be like, what's your least favorite thing about Chicago? Or like, why are so many women single in 2026? Or like, what's stopping business owners from scaling? Right. So, it's like, phrase it and frame it in a way that's like the negative stuff. And obviously, like, the rest of the conversation can become positive, but that's just something to keep in mind. All right. And then the third thing is let them answer, right? But be listening very carefully, like, and get really good at listening for what they're saying and asking follow up questions that challenge their perspective and play devil's advocate. So don't just like agree with everything that the person is saying and just like nod your head and like go along with everything that they're like talking about. You want to try to like listen and then like give an alternate perspective and ask, like not for you but like for the viewers, right? Like so you can take the pressure off yourself and be like, so what about like the people back home that think XYZ blah blah blah, right? So you're kind of like playing devil's advocate, but not for yourself personally, but for like who might be watching. So yeah, just make sure you don't like agree with everything they're saying. And then number four is end the video by breaking the fourth wall with the camera. So what that means is look directly at the camera and then ask the viewers to give their take in the comments. That's pretty easy to understand. So, just look at the camera at the end of it whenever you feel like cutting it and just say, what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. Last thing is just edit the video in CapCut. Make sure that there's captions on it and then post it to your social club page or your events page or your personal page if you want to. And don't forget to tag everybody and add people as collaborators and distribute. So yeah, that's the SOP. That's the training on that. Hopefully that's helpful. See you guys in the Discord. Peace.